Hey guys, my name is Nicole Christensen and this is The Crime Happens Here. Today we're going to be talking about Sasha Samsudean. So in October 2015, Sasha Samsudean had a night out on the town. She was clubbing with friends, having a great time. But when she returned, she was visibly stumbling and intoxicated, and it was very apparent that she had drank a little bit too much. Stephen Duxbury, the security guard of her building, appeared to be a helpful figure as he guided her to her apartment. He recognized her state of confusion, and at first glance, this might have seemed like a benevolent act on his part. The last available footage captured Sasha's struggle, stumbling up the stairs with the guard trailing behind her. Tragically, the following day, Sasha was discovered in her apartment having endured a horrific ordeal. She had been subjected to physical assault, sexual assault, and ultimately she was strangled to death. Initially, this seemed like an altruistic gesture by the security guard, but it took a dark turn, leading to a devastating and unthinkable outcome for Sasha Samsudean. So Sasha was born in New York on July 4th, 1988, and her family then moved her to Orlando, Florida, where she eventually grew up. She went on to graduate from the University of Florida while working for a real estate company where they specialized in apartment rentals. The company was called 407apartments.com. In fact, as of recently, there was still a profile of Sasha on the website indicating her as the Cupid of apartment hunting. So at the time of her tragic death, Sasha lived in Uptown Place condominiums, which is in Orlando's bustling downtown entertainment district. She was situated in a modern building, and there was a lot of security features. It had 24/7 video surveillance, on-campus security guards, and individualized digital key codes assigned to each unit, so only you knew the code. Despite all of these measures, they proved insufficient in averting this horrific ordeal. Ironically, the very person entrusted to provide protection was the person who provided her with the most threat. The tragedy unfolded within the supposed security confines of her home, highlighting the unsettling reality that the safeguards meant to ensure her safety ultimately proved powerless against the danger posed by somebody within. So on October 17th, 2015, Sasha left Attic Nightclub, which is a club in Orlando. She was having a great time with a group of friends, and one of her friends, Anthony Roper, really loved her company, and they decided to make plans for the next morning. They were going to have breakfast. So the next morning came around and Sasha didn't show up to the breakfast, and that seemed really weird to him, and he tried to make contact with her. She didn't respond, and so she stood him up, and that just wasn't like Sasha at all. Not only that, but she was pretty consistent on social media, and they noticed that she wasn't on social media at all, which was another red flag. This was very uncharacteristic of Sasha, and so he started to get worried. So he called two other friends and asked if they had heard from Sasha, which they both said no. They decided to go to her apartment and see what the heck was happening. So they arrived at her apartment and they saw her car parked in the parking spot. Yet a baby shower gift was in the back seat. She was supposed to go to a baby shower that day, so having the present there was really alarming because it shouldn't be. They went up and knocked on her apartment door, and their anxiety just went through the roof when she didn't answer, and she wasn't answering her phone or the door. And that's when they decided to call Orlando police to do a welfare check. When the police officers opened her door, they noticed a very strong smell of bleach immediately when entering into her apartment. That's when they found Sasha dead, lying in her bed. She was partially clothed and wrapped up in her own comforter. Sasha's shirt and bra had been ripped open, and her pants and underwear were completely missing. They didn't notice any signs that somebody had forced themselves in, which means that Sasha allowed them in willingly or they somehow knew her code. After a medical professional examined Sasha, they determined that she had blunt force trauma to her head and had been strangled. She also had upper and lower abrasions consistent with somebody forcibly restraining her. Upon diving deeper into the investigation, it was revealed that Sasha had been subjected to sexual assault. Despite the perpetrator's attempt to erase the evidence using bleach, forensic analysis uncovered foreign DNA on Sasha's chest and neck, crucially linking this to the assailant. An unusual detail caught the attention of investigators when they discovered the toilet seat in Sasha's apartment was up, which is not normal for a women's residence. The peculiar observation prompted a meticulous examination of the toilet, leading to the discovery that a suspect had used the bathroom after this incident or during this incident. Authorities uncovered fingerprints beneath the toilet seat lid and even identified a partial shoe print on the floor, offering substantial evidence despite the attempted use of bleach. The thorough investigative efforts unveiled a trail of critical details that contributed to the pursuit of justice in Sasha's case. So initially, the police didn't have security footage, leaving them unaware of Stephen Duxbury and that he had actually escorted her to her room. So initially, the police didn't have any type of security footage. They're waiting for security footage, but they did talk to Stephen Duxbury, the security guard, and asked him questions about Sasha and what happened that night. He didn't have much information for them, but he said that he had met them at the door. Sasha and her two friends is what he remembered. However, he claimed that Sasha failed to provide any form of identification or a key card, which is necessary to get into the building, as per their security measures. He decided that he was going to refuse access to the building. It wasn't until another resident arrived and allowed Sasha onto the premises. So he basically said that was the last time that he saw Sasha, was that she was fumbling with her security code outside of her apartment, and then he went back to do his job. He told police that he wasn't sure what happened to her that evening. He did his job and then he left work by himself at 6 a.m. So the two women who were with Sasha were actually not her friends. They were two just random people. They were tracked down by police and they said they were in an Uber when they saw a woman who was clearly intoxicated walking down the street. They were extremely fearful for her safety because she was so drunk, so they stopped their Uber to help her get to her building. They thought when she was into her building with the help of a security guard that she was safe, and so they left her. The police officers first looked at the other resident who walked in with Sasha. The officers thought that maybe they were the key to solving her murder. They immediately located him by looking through the key logs, but he was quickly cleared of any wrongdoing when his DNA didn't match up with the DNA found at the crime scene. He did admit that Sasha seemed pretty drunk, but he had no other information about what might have happened to her that evening. The upstairs neighbor right next to Sasha approached the police and said that she had observed Sasha walking in the hallway that night, trailed by the building's security guard, which he did not admit he followed her through the halls. They were a bit suspicious by this, which they prompted investigators to dive deeper, which they eventually were able to get the security footage, and they reviewed the tape meticulously to find out what Duxbury was hiding. The disparities between his statements and the footage strongly suggested that the security guard was withholding crucial details about the events that transpired that evening. The investigation took a critical turn as inconsistencies in Duxbury's narrative emerged, leading to intensified scrutiny of his involvement in Sasha's tragic ordeal. So, what happened? At 1:46 a.m., the security footage shows Sasha drunkenly wandering the halls of her building and walking through the exterior floors and stairways of the building. In the footage, Duxbury can be seen following close behind her and even next to her at times. She probably believed he was trying to make sure she got home safely. Then after she enters into her apartment, he stalks her apartment for like 40 minutes, and he even uses his own key several times to access sealed doors. He is well aware that the building's common area hallways are not covered by surveillance cameras, and he knows that he can take advantage of an intoxicated and vulnerable woman. He took his chance to strike. He was hoping that once the footage was retrieved, that it wouldn't show him committing the actual crime. At 6:36, Duxbury, still in uniform, was observed carrying white bags with red handles from the doorway leading to the second floor down to the garage where his car was parked. He re-entered the building without the bags. This activity contradicted his initial testimony where he claimed to have left work at 6 a.m. The circumstances indicated that Duxbury may have disposed of trash that was from Sasha's apartment, as the bags he carried matched those found in her home. The sequence of events raised further questions about his involvement in the aftermath of the tragic incident, prompting investigators to scrutinize his actions and statements more closely. So due to the videos, the police officers were able to obtain a search warrant, and they searched both his home and his cell phone. On October 17th at around 5 a.m., technicians found that Duxbury used his smartphone's browser seeking information on how to override a quick-set digital, exactly the type of lock on Sasha's front door. The police then discovered that the fingerprint found on the toilet seat was a direct match to Duxbury, and they also found a match on the nightstand as well. The DNA that was left behind on Sasha's breast came back as Duxbury's, and the soles of his boots were a complete match to the shoe print found in the apartment. The investigators then asked him if he wanted to do a polygraph test, and he agreed. He miserably failed. He said that he had never been in her apartment at all, and then why were your fingerprints in her apartment if you were never there? On October 30th, 2015, Stephen Duxbury was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, attempted sexual battery, and burglary. There was a 6-day trial for which he was found guilty on all charges. Then on November 21st, 2017, he received 2 life sentences without parole for the murder, and then 15 years for the burglary conviction. Sasha's family, rightfully so, decided to file a lawsuit against the building, the security company, and the lock manufacturer. Unfortunately, as of now, there's no public outcome to the case. I can't imagine living in an apartment where there are so many safety measures in place, but the very person who was supposed to protect the residents is the one person who caused the most damage. Although the surveillance footage didn't stop this crime from happening, it did help solve the case and bring justice for Sasha and her family. We are happy knowing that he will never be released and he will spend his life behind bars. Well, that's it for me, you guys. Thanks for watching The Crime Happens Here. I'll see you next time. Bye!